Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking. I'm up here in cold Minnesota, where the Minnesota Vikings are just an absolute train wreck of a football team right now, and I don't have much to cheer for. But I did play this game recently called Monster Mania, and it did remind me of some awesome things, and I had a really good time playing it. What did it remind me of? I'm glad you asked. Well, this is a game where each player is gonna, you're gonna have a team of like basically giant movie monsters. So I remember, and I think most people can theoretically remember the first time they saw a Godzilla movie. I was at a friend's house. I was very young, and I was in their basement, and there was an old black and white TV, and the game was this movie was on, and all I saw was this old man in suit Godzilla doing battle with this giant robot. And I said, I don't know what this is, but I like this and I want more of this. And ever since then, I've just always enjoyed the idea of Godzilla or other giant movie monsters, and not like a giant movie monster moving about on, like, you never want to see a movie monster moving across, like, a rolling plane or anything like that, right? You want to see a giant movie monster ripping a city apart. So what this game is, what Monster Mania is that each player is going to recruit a team of these giant monsters, and they're all going to descend upon this hapless city, and you're going to rip it apart for the resources you need to basically power up your monsters that are going to then attack the other players, trying to smash them, destroy them, knock them down. Because if you can kill 5 of your opponent's monsters, then you're going to win the game. It is a game that it is for 2 to 6 people, and there is a solo version. I've played it with 2 with my daughter a lot. I played it with 3 with my daughter and my son a lot, and I did bust it out with my gaming group several times, and we have 5 or 6 people usually at gaming group nights, and I have played it with that. Strangely, I didn't play it with 4, but it's just one of those things. I'm pretty sure I got the gist of the game with the number of times I played it. Let me show you how Monster Mania is played. It is a card-driven battling game, so if you're familiar with that type of game, this probably won't be too weird to you or out there. But I did like the fact that it kind of just it didn't. The rules don't get in the way of the fun, if that makes sense. But I'll maybe touch on that again when we circle back here with my final thoughts. But anyway, how to play Monster Mania. This is Monster Mania, so let's dive in. I'll show you how to play. I've already kind of started it. I just set up 2 players. Now remember, this can play up to 6 people, and it scales really well. Also, there's a way you can play solo, which is actually a really good way to play as well. But the mechanisms are pretty much the same regardless, so I'm just going to show you using these 2 players in this situation. Before you begin, each player gets to start with 1 monster. You take 1 monster of each type out, and I'll show you some of these here in a little bit. Let me turn them the right way. I'll show you some of these in a little bit, and then you deliver 1 of these monsters to each person. So like this player here, got the giant slaying mantis, and obviously it's a monster, so you can see it, but you can always look right here and you'll be able to see what type of card you're dealing with if you look at that spot. And then if we look over here, this player got Tyrantula, anyway, so you can see there's a monster. Now, all of these will have a health, which obviously that's how much damage they can take before they're destroyed, and then they'll have these different attacks down here, and then they'll actually list the damages that each attack does. So here we have Spider Bite, 8 legs, and Gossamer's Grapple. You'll notice that there's this other number that's right next to it, this 2, 3, and 5. The way you can't just like flat out just I'm attacking. The way you get to attack with these different creatures is you have to gather up enough attack points to do so, and then you discard those attack points to be able to do it. And obviously then the cost in attack points is right there, 2, 3, and 5. So just keep that in mind as you're playing, and I'll show you how other cards work and what have you. Now each player, let me show you some of these other monsters before we skip ahead here. So, and all of these have kind of a fun tongue-in-cheek name, and I did enjoy them a great deal. And there's also some flavor text here. So here is like Bear Maximum, Bear Minimum, Bear Maximum. Anyway, Bear Maximum, awoken from a 24,000-year hibernation, this towering mother cave bear is prepared for primal chaos. And you can see here her attacks 3, 5, and 8. Look at that 8, like 65 damage. That would kill either Slaying Mantis or Tyrantula in one hit. But of course, you'd have to gather up 8 attack points to do so. But so here, and then we have Frostbite, Giant, Terrorsaur, XL Terrestrial, see, Killipede. So I do like the fact that the creator of the game definitely has a the game is it's a game, and it actually has some tough decisions and some fun things going on, but it doesn't waste a lot of time taking itself too seriously. And because of kind of like the goofy names and stuff like that, it reminded me a great deal of the old monster movies I used to watch, but also it was really appealed to both my son and my daughter. But anyway, so the way the game works is you're going to have a hand of 5 cards. You're going to start with 5 cards. Just grab 5 here off the top. 2, 3, 4, 5. I should mention that neither of these decks, the decks are just the exact same thing. I shuffled up all the cards and just split them up into 2 decks. The reason I did that was just because when we were playing, we had this like giant deck of cards like that. And if you bumped the table or somebody knocked it, they would fall over and they'd go flying everywhere. So my daughter and I found it a lot easier if we just, spaced out the decks a little bit and made them, a little more normal sized. One cool thing I should mention, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, like there's no discard pile out here. People actually put all their discards in their own discard spot on their playmat, the rubble pile that you see right there. And I should take a few moments just to tell you what you see here is the combat zone. The combat zone is where you're going to be placing more monsters as you collect them. Support slots, you'll get these cards that are support cards that you'll place in those spots. And over here you have prize points. You place prize points as you kill monsters. If you're the one to take out somebody's monster, you'll gain a prize point. It is possible that you can actually kill your own monster because of, I'll show you some cards that'll do that. If that happens, every other player gets a prize point except for you. So you want to avoid that if you possibly can. And obviously here is where you're going to be collecting attack points, and as you collect them, you just place them on there. There is also damage tokens, so if, say, Slaying Mantis took, 30 points of damage, you would just put the 30 on top like that to show, and as he said, once you reach the hit points, or the health points of your creature, they will be destroyed if they go over. Oh, and I should also, I want to show you these, I always really appreciate when a designer or a publisher manages, and this is obviously very small text, but it is very readable. This tells you exactly everything you need to know how to play on this little card, and you have all of these for every one of the players, and you can just hand those to each person, and they'll have it. And then on the other side, they have all the little terminology as well. So, obviously you can't do that for, every possible game, because some games will have more rules or more terms and more like images and what have you. But when a game can be presented like that, it's so much nicer, like having somebody having that and then not having to go and put their nose in a rule book, and it just increases the ability of the players to be interactive and having a good time and reacting to each other. And but I'll talk more about that in my final thoughts as well. All right, so here are my 5 cards, and I'm just going to kind of show them to you. So some cards will have this counter card, counterproductive. So when an opponent would play a counter, play this card to negate that counter, and your opponent must send the negated counter to the rebel pile. So this counters a counter, basically. Counters are ways that you can avoid different types of damages or attacks or things like that. Now, here's a card that says environmental. Environmental is things that are just like, these monsters are rampaging through the cities, right? So they're in the environment of beating each other to death and bashing each other with buildings and cars and what have you. But here you have a rocket launch. Discard this card to deal 30 damage to an opponent's monster, or discard this card to gain 4 attack points. Choose one of your own monsters and take 20 damage. So that's a way your own person could take damage. Here's the support card. Massive Hysteria. Once activated on this turn, only gain 1 additional attack point for each monster in your combat zone per environmental. Played, only 1 Massive Hysteria can be activated per turn. So, and I should also mention that this is the maximum amount of slots. You have 3 combat zone slots for 3 monsters and 3 slots for your support cards. The monsters have to be killed off before you can actually replace them. So just keep that in mind before you gum up your works as well. I'll just show you. I might as well show you all 5 of my cards. Power Plant, once activated, heal 1 monster in your combat zone by 15 health, then discard 1 card from your hand. And then finally, here we have the environment of 10-story building. Discard the card to deal 10 damage to an opponent's monster, or discard this card to gain 2 attack points. There are these little tokens here that are used as turn markers. Basically what that is that, since your support cards, when you play them, you've activated them just to make sure you remind yourself that you've used that one. You do place that on the cards as you do so. So on your turn, what you would do is, 1, if you have less than 5 cards, you will draw cards up to 5. If you have 5 cards, you get to draw 1 card, and you just take 1 off of the deck. In the first turn of the game, the first player does not get to draw a card. You don't get to do so. And nobody can attack anybody with a monster until... you can't, I should say this, you can't attack a monster or an environment, somebody else's monster, until the first player has their second turn. So everybody gets kind of a turn to build themselves up. You can do damage to yourself, however, with environment cards for the effect. So whereas I couldn't play, let me find the rocket launch card. I couldn't play this rocket launch card to attack Tyrantula over there, but I could, if I wanted to do this, I could gain 4 attack points and choose my monster and then take 20 damage. Alright, so pretty straightforward, but on your turn what you're going to do is you're just going to play as many of the cards as you want. So you're just going to go through your deck and you're going to play them. I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I think I set this up right. Yeah, okay. So if this was the second turn of the game or whatever, and I got to draw a card, and these are my cards. So here I have Frostbite, and so you can just keep playing cards as long as you have plays you can make. So you can go ahead and take and place the monster down. Now I should mention, the location of the combat zone has no bearing whatsoever on which spot you get to attack on any other players. So just don't worry about that, as far as it's just a spot, it's just a place to put that on there. And then, if I wanted to, I can play a support card, and and I can play another support card, and maybe I will I want the attack points because I can do 30. Let's just check here. Let's say this guy will do 30 damage to an opponent's monster, or I can discard this card to gain 4 attack points but do 20 damage to one of my own. So let's just see here. If with 4 attack points, I could do Arctic Screech, which would do 35, which is more than the 30, so is that worth it? Let's see if we got anything with the old Slaying Mantis here. So with 4 attack points, so I can't quite, but if I can get to 5, I can do Disguise and Devour, which is going to do 55 points. So that's, a possibility. So if I played Rocket Launch, put it in my roll pile, I'm going to deal 20 damage to one of my own creatures, so I'm going to pick one. I don't want to do it to the Slaying Mantis because he doesn't have as many hit points, 45. Plus, remember, I want to be able to do, his big attack, like so. And now I'm going to get 4 attack points, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a 4 in there to show that I have 4 attack points. And looking at my other cards, I have a 10-story building. I can discard this card to deal 10 damage to an opponent's monster, or discard this to gain 2 attack points. Well, heck yeah, let's go ahead and discard that. Let's gain 2 more attack points, and I'm only going to take this one, right? And we're going to pretend this is the second turn of the game. We're only going to take this one, right? Because I'm going to place it, because I'm going to use the 2 to get to 6, but then I'm going to attack with Slaying Mantis, which is going to burn up those other 4 that I got, and I'm going to do the 55 points of damage to Tyrantula over here, who's got 60 health, and boom, I'm going to almost take him down. I'm going to go ahead and put a 30 and a 10, so 40, 45, 55 damage. He's only got 5 measly little points of damage. Now, Now, I've got this set up with 2 players. And I'm going to say right now, that might not be a great decision to make because of the fact that I can't finish him off this turn, and remember, I only got the 1 card left, and I can't do anything with it. I've only got the 1 card left. What am I going to do? I can't do it, and the next person who goes is going to say 5 points. I can do 5 points. Bam! They're going to kill that monster, knock that one out from that player, and they're going to be able to get the points, the prize point for doing so. So that might not be. But if we were just playing 2 players, maybe it would be obviously it would be a better choice because he's only be the one that I'm going to be attacking, and that's something I'll talk about in my final thoughts as well, as far as how the game changes with the number of players you have. But that's how you play. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So if I had killed him, I get a prize point, and as you can see, there are 5 prize points total. Like, whoever gets to 5 wins the game. And I think that's like the perfect number. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could increase the number of prize points that you wanted to, and if you could go ahead and like for a longer game. If you ever do use up all the cards in the deck, everybody takes the rubble pile and they put it and they shuffle it all together, and you just shuffle up the cards and play some more. I should also mention that as an action on your turn, you can also discard any cards you want to get rid of. So if you just think, oh, this card's worthless, I don't want to use them, you can get rid of all of your cards, so the next time it's your turn, you can obviously draw more when you get the chance. But there you go. That is Monster Mania. It reminds me a lot of the battling card games that I really, really enjoy playing with my friends, with my family. And I'll tell you straight out, this game took me like about 5 minutes to teach my daughter because of the fact that she is so in tune with games like Pokemon, the trading game, the trading card game, because of like the fact that there was a lot of it's a different game. Obviously, there's different rules and what have you, but this was something very similar for her as far as figuring out which attacks she could use, how to build up, how the health works, how the damage works, all those things. And it was something she loves this. And she said as soon as I'm done with this video, she is going to take this and put this on her game shelf in her room. So, but let me talk about all of that and more in my final thoughts. Alright, so there you go. There's Monster Mania. Alright, so I touched on a few things when I told you how to play, but I want to reiterate them as well. One, like I said, I really appreciated the fact that the publisher / designer of the game, like I said, they didn't take themselves too seriously. Now, you could have gone gritty and realistic, and that would have been fine with this game, but I did like the kind of, cartoon aspect to it. It reminded me of like after-school cartoon show my kids would watch, or something that would be on Netflix, and something that I'd have no problem with them playing. This is a game that, like as I said, my daughter is going to take and put on her shelf, and she's going to want to play for a very, very long time. It just appeals to her, and I wouldn't want this game, and it wouldn't have been let me just say, it wouldn't have appealed to her as much if it wasn't for the fact that it was presented in the way that it was, if that makes sense. So we had fun, like reading the little flavor text, and we had fun with the names and stuff like that, and we enjoyed it a great deal. My son actually was inspired to go and create his own monsters, which of course were incredibly overpowered, but we still played with them anyway. Like, oh, this one for 1 attack point does 100 points of damage. It's like, okay, fine, Caleb. But I did think it was cool that you spurred him to have some creative juices going on. I did like that. I like that a lot that he decided to do that. But regardless, the game. Like I said, if you're familiar with battling card games, you are going to understand where this game's coming from. If you are familiar with and especially, like I said, if you're familiar with the Pokemon trading card battle game or whatever, it doesn't copy like the gameplay, but I mean, there was enough there as far as representation of the health and attacks and things like that, that it did, just kind of clue in really well for myself. And like I said, for my daughter and my son, who both play Pokemon a great deal. So it didn't take a lot of effort for me to teach this game. My friends took to it like a duck like ducks to water, but obviously we play tons of games together. So, but regardless, if you are in a gaming group with a lot of people, or you're familiar with other battling card games, it's going to have a low entry point as far as the rules are concerned, which is always a plus. I love the fact that you have just basically one little card that has all the rules on it. That's all you need. Now, tactically, how does the game play? So there's actually some pretty cool things going on here. There are times when, like, if you get your monsters taken out from underneath you, it's kind of like you playing Monopoly and being in jail, right? You don't have a monster out there that's taking the damage and possibly losing. Now, it's really tough to do damage to anybody else. I mean, yes, there are some environmental cards that'll do a little bit of damage to people, but for the most part, you have to be powering up your monsters to attack them. The big thing is that you need to have a good support base. You need to have some good support cards that are going to heal your monsters, that are going to keep them up and running, and then you can run with those repeatedly. And there are some really, really fun combos and strategies that you can build up as the game progresses. And because of the fact that you have that giant deck of cards, it's like this tall, there are so many different cards and abilities and things that you can do. Every single time you play it, you are going to have a new and varied experience, and it's going to be like a different strategy or a tactic it's going to take to pull off a win. Now, it definitely is a lighter game, and sometimes that's not bad, right? I mean, I don't have to have like a super dense game full of like 8 pages of rules to have a good time. For me, this was a game where it was, what is the next person going to do, and how am I going to prevent them from stealing a kill from me? Or how am I going to prevent somebody else from being able to kill my creatures, or the creatures of my other opponent? Because remember, it doesn't matter who that person takes out. They just have to take out somebody to climb the ladder as far as the points are concerned. So, as I showed in how to play, it's like you wouldn't want to do almost all the damage to a monster. What you want to do is you want to kind of sit tight, hunker down, and like plan on like trying to snipe a few kills here and there, using your attack points that you total up. And there is no limit on attack points, I should mention. So you can just keep collecting and collecting and collecting. But I guarantee you, as players notice that you are like gathering up those, they are going to start targeting your monsters, because they are not going to want you to be able to use all the powers that they have. So feel free to collect those as much as you like, but be on the lookout. You are going to have a big giant target right on your forehead, and they're going to come after you. But so there are, as like just from me describing this, there are several different things that happen as the game is played that you are able to adjust and change, and like some cool little tactics and strategy. And of course, obviously, it's just giant monsters and robots, beating the heck out of each other while laying waste to a city. So what's not to love about that? So if you're looking for a cool little battle game that like you want to play with your family or your gaming group, I would strongly suggest you check out Monster Mania. I think you'll enjoy it a great deal. If you have any questions about the game itself, by all means, ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And you out there, this is the new 47-year-old Viking. I'm telling you, be the best possible version of you can every single day. It's a great and wonderful and mysterious world we roll around in. So don't spend it being angry or upset or sad. And I understand there's outside influences that are going to come in that are going to make you feel those emotions, but I think the goal of your life is to try to focus on the good as much as you possibly can, and focus on the happiness as much as you possibly can, because at the end of the day, at the end of the journey, your life, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter like how many friends you had, it doesn't matter how many games you own, it doesn't matter, none of those things will matter. The only thing that you're going to take with you are your memories and your experiences and your happiness and your love. And so remember that, and if you have those things, I don't care where you live, what you do, how you are a very wealthy and wonderful person if you can say that you feel happy and feel love, and yeah. So happy holidays to everybody out there. Have a blast. I'll talk to you soon.